Good morning. I am very happy to report that overnight and early morning readings show that water levels upstream have stabilized and are on a downward trend. City crews monitored our levee system throughout the night and into this morning. The levee held up throughout this event and its integrity remained sound. And our city infrastructure, water, sewer, and power all remain functional and is preserved without major damage. Therefore, we recently lifted evacuation orders. People in evacuation zones are free to return to their homes. We have been working with our coordinators at each of our shelter locations to ensure an orderly and safe return of almost 1,000 area residents to their homes. This was what we hope in a historic flooding event. I am proud to say that the infrastructure and emergency plans put in place kept our community safe. If not for the investment of previous community leadership in a world-class levee system, this city would be underwater. It's important to note, infrastructure investment strengthens and preserves communities. I want to conclude by saying thank you. Thank you to our tireless city staff, our emergency and public safety services, directed by Shane Widener, who did a hell of a job through all this, our city administrator, Andy Colvin, and public works director, Steve Ramus, Bobby Reiser, emergency manager, Liz Wallace, communications manager, all our first responders, and all city staff. All hands were on deck. I want to make a note here that I just was told there were at least 32 rescues conducted by our first responders, working in collaboration with our regional partners, including Madison County, and thank you, Sheriff Todd Volk. I would like all the city staff here, since everybody contributed time and effort, to join me up here and be recognized. Don't be shy. Thank you all very much. This was an exercise in community collaboration and self-sufficiency. It truly was a story of neighbor helping neighbor. I want to run through a list of folks who, without their help, we couldn't have managed. Our shelter locations and their administrators, Lutheran High Northeast, Norfolk Catholic, Bel Air Elementary School, providing supplemental help, First Christian Church, Northern Heights Baptist Church, St. Paul's Lutheran, our volunteer headquarters, the Ponca Tribe of Nebraska, supporting organizations, Salvation Army, Orphan Grain Train, the Red Cross, Faith Regional Health Services, businesses, Walmart, Target, Subway, Jimmy John's, Michael's Cantina, Black Cow Fat Pig, AWG, Lou's, Hy-Vee, and I know there were others. Too many to fully list here. Thank you. To the countless citizen volunteers, from the people who opened their homes to the people who stepped up to give time, money, and materials, thank you. This was an all-community effort, community collaboration, self-sufficiency. No one from the outside was going to come in and save us. They couldn't have gotten here if they tried. Rather, it was neighbor helping neighbor, a true community effort. When we put out a call for extra help, the only questions asked were how, where, and how much. That's what makes this a special place. Very proud of the community. At this time, I'd invite Public Safety Director Shane Widener to come forward and give what we hope is a final report on this event.
Thank you, Mayor. Well said. Great summary of where we've been over the last few days. The work's just begun, though, in a lot of ways. I got to tell you straightforward that there's going to be a lot of demobilization efforts and probably more importantly, a lot of recovery efforts that are going to go on for some time. And our citizens are hurting. There's a lot of them that are hurting. In fact, we've got to keep in mind that though we dodged this bullet, there was damage. We've had some business damages, and we've had some home damages with floodwaters. Water was in places unusual, to say the least. In a lot of ways more significant than 2010, and some ways less significant, but nevertheless, there was a considerable amount of damage. I just want to key on one thing that the mayor said about the community and give you a short glimpse into decision-making process in the Emergency Operations Center. This was one thing that we can rely on, this community. We started making calls about shelter placement early on in this, and we picked the places in the EOC. The people that we picked and the places we picked had no idea we just picked them. We made one call to those folks, and they ran with it. So I can't tell you, going to the shelters last night and watching the efficiency and the patience of our citizens and the shelter operators and the donations and the grace that this community provided to each other is uplifting. It was an amazing thing to watch. And that was after one phone call saying, hey, you're it. Thanks, get ready, you're it. And people just stood up, and with very little guidance. It isn't like we have a city staff person or some emergency manager type person at all these places that just knows everything to do. That's not the case. These are normal people that don't run shelters for a living, but run organizations for a living that just did the right thing. And more importantly, the citizens the mayor couldn't have said it better, really. I mean, the response was amazing, and the grace is amazing. So thank you very much. I could tell you from an emergency operations standpoint, that takes a huge, and I mean a huge burden off the Emergency Operations Center. When you have 1,000 people that are displaced and staying in a shelter, it's no small thing. So I know I'm focusing on it, but it was a big deal. So thanks again. The citizen taking care of citizen is amazing, because the police officers went out and, we called that evacuation order, and this is another key item I would like to focus on. Just because we called an evacuation order it's not magical. It takes time and resources, and it takes a lot of time. Our police officers were on their emergency operations shift level, so they were in here all hands on the deck. But even at that, with those resources going out door to door and managing an evacuation corridor, the magnitude that we managed, it takes a lot of time. It took the better part of a day to evacuate everybody. You get in the mindset that, they call an evacuation, it's just magically done. It's not. So hats off to our police officers that got the job done, and our citizens that responded appropriately. That's the biggest key. They took them at their word and responded. When we call an evacuation in this community, or any community, but our community, we've done it before, unfortunately, and we'll probably do it again at some point in the future. There's always going to be some wonderment in our minds and our citizens' minds about the necessity of evacuations. But I got to tell you, we have to make that decision as a community and trust each other, which we do, and the reasons behind it. Our levy, Mayor, thank you for pointing that out. The investment that we made in that in 1960s proved to be true. There's a lot of beatings, for lack of better words, that I'm sure the elected officials and the city engineer took when they made that kind of investment. But when we seen that wall of water coming our way and knew that we were protected at some level, it was great. And we relied on that. However, we prepared in that evacuation order for a breach. So I'm telling you, if there would have been a breach, you would have seen things in the city that we've never seen before, probably just because of the historic nature of this water. If you've been on YouTube and watched the news footage of the Spencer Dam, a breach on our levee would have caused similar damage in our community, and it would have been a large swath of our community and a lion's share of our industrial base. So when we make those calls out there, that's what we're trying to prepare against. We do some strategic shelters in place, in particular the Veterans Home. The that we developed plans to do rapid evacuation, but we sheltered all of our veterans in place and never actually moved them because of the special needs and the places to put those folks was hard. So we were prepared, but we didn't move them. So when you look at those kind of things, you know, a lot of citizens may ask, well, why couldn't I just stayed in my home? Because if the bad thing happens, we don't have time to evacuate anymore. And we just got to be laser focused at that point. Damage assessments are going to be important going forward. I encourage you, if you have damage, to reach out to our emergency management personnel at our fire station. We'll be collecting some damage reports, not only from our community, but from all of Region 11, which is Antelope County, Pierce County, and Madison County. That'll be important to document what transpired and what kind of resources we expended and what we think we'll be expending in the future for state reporting and federal reporting. 32 people plus rescued. Hats off, Chief Rogge and your staff at the fire department and the National Guard and all of our folks there. They did an outstanding job. Those aren't small rescues either. They're not simple ones. They put skin in the game every time they're doing those rescues. I think I'm about done. Stephen's going to come up here and talk about our infrastructure. Again, hats off, folks. Good job, city citizens in particular. This was a good response to a bad situation. So I appreciate all the help out there, and please continue to communicate, and please continue to have patience with the city. I wanted to folks to say this because this morning, and Stephen might probably hit on this too, but our street supervisor came in the EOC probably about 6:15 this morning and said, the crews are out patching potholes. So that's, life goes on, and, all the things we got going on in the community, and our public works crew, which performed outstandingly in the emergency response, they get back in gear and they're out patching potholes this morning. So please have patience with us as we go through that process, because that's a big job going forward too, because the winter's been rough. But spring's here, the sun's out, and I'm thankful, so thank you. Stephen?
Thanks, Shane, for that update. Mine won't be quite as lengthy. Our public infrastructure remains in great shape following this event. This morning I was out, as well as other street staff were out, and other city staff monitoring the levee from the First Street area down to Omaha. The levee remains in sound condition. There was no scour damage present along the levee system itself. At the north end, up around the Benjamin Avenue area north, I would say the levee has dropped about 9 feet overnight. Down around the Omaha area, the levee appears to be about 5 feet lower than it was late yesterday. So conditions are certainly improving. The levee itself, the flow of the levee is now confined within the excavated portion of the levee channel. There is no more flow up against the bermed dike portion of the levee. So we're in an extremely safe condition. We will be looking at the bridge structures on Norfolk Avenue and Benjamin Avenue and First Street to see if there's any damage there. Norfolk Avenue and Benjamin Avenue, those structures were not inundated with water, so I'm not expecting to see anything there. We kept those open during the event. Obviously up at First Street, that may be a little different condition, and we'll start to look at that as soon as we can get up into that area. The state, I know this morning I was visiting with one of the inspectors from the state down on the Omaha Bridge. They were inspecting that. I don't know when that might be reopened. We'll have to wait and hear from the state on that. With regard to the Norfolk Avenue or North Fork within the city limits, we continue to pump down where the North Fork enters the levee, just north of Omaha. We've been pumping on that since the event started, essentially. We did lower the water level in the North Fork last night about 2 feet down there on the south end. That removed the pressure on Omaha so that we could clear the water and ice off of Omaha there by the animal shelter. So that is clear and should be able to open 275 whenever the DOT is ready to open the bridge. Our sanitary sewer infrastructure, our treatment plant, we did evacuate the plant yesterday at one point. We did have one staff person remaining out there to shut things down should the plant become inundated with water. We wanted to preserve as much of the system as we could, so we were prepared to completely shut that down and turn the power off. We did not have to go to that extreme. We were able to keep the plant in full operation during the event. So great job at the water treatment plant. Our sewer and water infrastructure functioned well. We were monitoring our wellheads pretty close. We did not have any inundation at those. Everything continued to function as normal. The power outage that occurred late yesterday, we did get all of our lift stations onto temporary power during that event. Thanks to NPPD's efforts, they turned that thing around. I think we were back up within an hour across the city. So really appreciate their effort in planning on that and making that happen as quick as they could. That had no impact on us. So from an infrastructure standpoint, the levee standpoint, we're in really good shape. As Shane mentioned, it is pothole season, and our focus is going to be turning over to potholes within the street department, and kind of business as normal from here. But again, I would thank all of the public works staff. They've been working many hours, 24 hours in some cases, and I thank the citizens as well. You know, there has been some incidences out there where we've had some backups into basements. Those were pretty minimal, but I know they exist. We've been in contact with everybody that I'm aware of where that occurred, and we'll continue to work with them. So I appreciate the citizens being patient with us during this event, and take any questions after this.
Good morning. I'm going to span out a little bit from the Norfolk area. Obviously, for the county, what's outside the city limits, there's going to be a lot of issues up in our Norfolk area here, so with water on the roadways and such. One of the things I will say here, hopefully by later today, we're going to get an updated list of the roads that are affected, working with the county roads departments, and the deputies are out driving around right now checking to see which roads are open, which ones are passable. We'll be getting that on our Facebook site, and I think we'll try to get it on our website too at MassaCountySheriff.com. So our county roads and everything, if you need to go somewhere, be careful. I was driving around last night and ran a couple spots on top of hills that had half a field on the roadway and stuff, just because of how the water flowed in the past couple days. I do know with information that came from Antelope Sheriff Bob Moore, that there is still an ice jam up in his county. I believe it's near the Oakdale area. Yep. So it's still some issues going on here that we're going to have to be dealing with over the next several days, or even maybe weeks. We're not sure, because forecast has some rain in the future in another week. So hopefully this can drop down enough to where, at least on the county side, we can stay ahead of everything. There is damage on, I can say, pretty much every county road from something. We have culverts washed out that, as a couple people said, and I didn't know there was a culvert there. They just couldn't, they're smaller culverts and couldn't handle the massive amount that came through. Luckily, we've had very few injuries reported over the last couple days when vehicles have had issues. The county, as we had announced a couple times, was out of barricades. So if you're driving around, you see a little post on there with the orange flag alongside the roadway, know that something's going on up ahead or right around that area. Slow down, and look, because there is damage to roads. I know by the Newman Grove area that there is a piece of road on the county line east of Newman Grove where the top shell of the road is still there. Everything is gone underneath it. It looks pretty if you're driving straight on it, but you get to the side, there's nothing underneath there, so that's going to be closed. more likely there will be quite a few roads that are gonna be closed for some time as the county roads can get to them and maintain them and stuff. So just be patient. There's gonna be some people who are gonna be taking long drives around to get to where work or school or whatever they're doing. We gotta slow down and get everybody there safely in these next few days as we're getting stuff fixed. Do need to say that across, as gentleman touched upon here in the Norfolk area, I do know through Madison, Newman Grove, Tilden, Meadow and Battle Creek areas and through the county, volunteerism has been great. I know a group of farmers and stuff got together and helped move some cattle out of the bottom. And they said even some people driving around that were kind of stuck in the area just kind of helped park vehicles to get them across the roadway to drier land. So it's been really good across our area for, excuse me, for everybody just pitching in. I know listening to and talking to the police chiefs, they've been running on fumes here the past couple of days, as most people have, trying to stay ahead of everything. And the fire departments, you know, Norfolk has a great department here. I know worked with them here in the past day or two with a lot of the rescues and just staying out of their way a little bit too, because they do a great job. But across our county, our volunteer fire departments have been, you know, some of them couldn't get to work, so they stayed there, and the others that couldn't, that might have been able to work, they closed their shops and pitched in and took care of their communities. So really great community we have here. Spreading out from us. If you ain't got to go nowhere across this state, don't. Because we've heard all the stories. Madison County's not the only place affected. Yet it will be difficult to go anywhere. Be patient. There's nothing that big and important. If it's an emergency, we will help you. But it has to be an emergency, life or death, and we can help you get someplace, because more likely we might have to life flight you somewhere right now, because it's going to get worse south of us is where all this water is going. So just be mindful of that. And it's a sunny day, so we can have some smiles because there's a lot of good that's coming out of this, but you know, we still have our bad things we're gonna have to take care of, and be patient. We'll keep you up to date and keep you apprised of what's going on. So, thank you.
Thank you, Shane, Steve, and Sheriff Volk for those detailed reports. We'll take any questions if there are any right now.
They were in the evacuation zone, and yes, they were affected. We talked to the postmaster this morning, about 6:30, and told them they could go ahead and get the employees coming in and get ready to process for the day. That's what they did. A little. The car was discovered. So the car that got washed off the road on North First Street, north of the bridge over the levee, did not move a great deal from where it was witnessed, where the car actually and our missing person disappeared. So the car is there. So it's still out in the middle of the water. You know, we're going to continue to monitor that, and at some point be able to recover that car. As far as the missing person, we have no update on that. We have not discovered or the person hasn't self-reported at this point. So we're going to continue to make efforts to resolve that issue. So out there we have one of our citizens missing, and you know, I don't even know how to answer that completely, because it's obviously a delicate situation. But at this point, they are a missing person. And that's all we know at this point. So, you know, the search has been going, and it will continue to go on through many different channels.
Nothing else. Thank you all very much.